Assalamualaikum, dear students. I hope you are all fine. Today we are starting BRW 14 lectures. The first point of our today lecture is the concept of sampling. Let us take a very simple example to explain the concept of sampling. Suppose you want to estimate the average age of student in your class. There are two way of doing this. The first method is to contact all students in the class, find out their ages, add them up, and then divide this by the number of the student. The second method is to select few students from the class, ask them their ages, and add them up and divide it by number of students you have asked. From this you can make an estimate of average age of the class. Similarly, suppose you want to find out the average income of family living in a city. Imagine the amount of effort and resources required to go to every family in the city to find out their income. You could instead select a few families to become the basis of your inquiry, and then from what you have found out from these families, make an estimate of the average income of the family in the city. Similarly, election opinion polls can be used. These are based upon a very small group of people who are questioned about their voting preference, and on the basis of these results, a prediction is made about the probable outcome of an election. So sampling is the process of selecting a few from a bigger group to become the basis for estimating or predicting the prevalence of an unknown piece of information, situation, or outcome regarding the bigger group. A sample is subgroup of the population. So this process of selecting sample from the total population and this process have also some advantage and disadvantage. The advantage are that it saves time as well as financial and human resources. However, the disadvantage is that you do not find out the information about the population characteristics of interest to you, but only that you do not find out the information about that you predict them. Hence, the possibility of an error in your estimation exists. Sampling, therefore, is a trade-off between certain benefit and disadvantage. While on the one hand you save time and resources, on the other hand you may compromise the level of accuracy in your finding. Through sampling, you only make estimate about the actual situation of the population from which sample is drawn. If you ascertain piece of information from the total sample population, and if your method of inquiry is correct, your finding should be reasonably accurate. However, if you accurate a sample and use this as the basis from which to estimate the situation in the total population, an error is possible. Tolerance of this possibility of error is an important consideration in selecting sample. So the next point is sampling terminology. It's a very important point. Let us again consider the example used as we have already discussed. The average age of class, the average income of the family living in the city, and the likely election outcome for a particular state or a country. Let us assume that you adopt the sampling method, that is, you select a few student, family, or election to achieve these aims. In this process, there are a number of aspects. Number one, the class family living in the city or electorates from which you select your sample are called population or study population and are usually denoted by letter N. The sample group of the student family or electors from whom you collect the required information to estimate the average age of the class, average income or election outcome is called sample. The number of student families or elector from whom you obtain the required information is called the sample size and usually denoted by letter N. The way you select student family or electors is called sampling design and sample strategy. Each student family or elector that becomes the basis for selecting your sample is called sampling unit or sampling element. A list identifying each student family or elector in the study population is called sampling frame. If all elements in a sampling population cannot be individually identified, you cannot have a sample frame from that study population. Your finding based on the information obtained from your respondent are called sample statistics. Your sample statistics become the basic of estimating prevalence of the above characteristics in the study population. Your main aim is to find answer to your research question in the study population, not in the sample you collect information from. From sample statistic, we make an estimate of the answer to our research question in study population. The estimates arrived from sample statistics are called population parameters or the population mean. Principle of sampling. In the sampling is very important. The theory of sampling is guided by three principles. To effectively explain these, we will take an extremely simple example. Suppose there are four individually A, B, C, D. Further, suppose that A is 18 years of age, B is 20, C is 23 and D is 25. As you know their ages, you can find out their average age by simply adding and divided by 4. Then you find out the average age which will be 21.5 years. Now let us suppose that you want to select a sample of two individuals to make an estimate of average age of the four individuals. The select of an unbiased sample, we need to make sure that each unit has an equal and independent chance of selection in the sample. Randomization is a process that enables you to achieve this. In order to achieve randomization, we use the theory of probability in forming which will provide us with 6 possibility condition of 2 A, B, C, D. You can see that this is the possibility of. Notice that in most cases the average age collected on the basis of these sample of 2 is different. Now compare these sample statistics with the average of all 4 individuals. The population mean of 21.5 years. Out of total of 6 possible sample combination, only in the case of 2 there is no difference between the sample statistic and the population mean. Where there is difference, there is attributed to the sample and known is sampling error. Again, the size of sampling error varies upon the situation. Let us consider the difference in the sample statistic and population for each of the 6 samples. According to principle 1, in a majority of cases of sampling, there will be a difference between the sample statistic and the true population mean, which is attributed to the selection of the unit in the samples. To understand the second principle, let us continue with the above example, but instead of the sample of 2 individuals, would take a sample of 3. So according to principle 2, the greater the sample size, the more accurate the estimate of few population. And according to third principle, principle 3, the greater the difference in the variable under study in a population for a given sample size, the greater the difference between the sample status and their population mean. Establishing. So our next point is factor affecting the interferences drawn from a sample. The first point is the sample size. Findings based upon larger sample have more certainty than those based on smaller ones. As a rule, the larger the sample size, the more accurate the finding. So the next point is the extent of variation in the sampling population. The greater the variation in the study population with respect to the characteristic under the study for a given sample size, the greater the uncertainty. If a population is homogeneous with respect to the characteristic under the study, a small sample can provide a reasonably good estimate. But if it is heterogeneous, you need to select a large sample to obtain the same level of accuracy. Of course, if all the elements in a population are identical, then the selection of even one will provide an absolutely accurate estimate. As a rule, the higher the variation with respect to the characteristic under study in study population, the greater uncertainty for a given sample size. What is the aim in selecting a sample? When you select a sample quantitative study, you are primarily aiming to achieve maximum precision in your estimate within a given sample size and avoid bias in the selection of your sample. Bias in the selection of a sample can occur if sampling is done by non-random method, that is, if the selection is consciously or unconsciously influenced by a human choice. The sampling frame, the list index or other population record which serves as the basis of selection does not cover the sampling population accurately and completely. A selection of sampling population is impossible to find or refuse to cooperate. So the next point is type of sampling. You can see that there is three major types: random sampling, non-random sampling, mixed sampling. In the random sampling, there are also further division. Number is random sampling, stratified random sampling, and stratified random sampling also further divided. Appropriate stratified sampling, disappropriate stratified sampling, cluster sampling also further divided. Single state, double state, multi-state. In non-random sampling, there is quota sampling, judgmental sampling, additional sampling, snowball sampling, expert sampling. In mixed sampling, there is only systematic sampling. So first we start random sampling. For a design to be called random sampling or probability sampling, it is imperative that each element in the population has an equal and independent chance of selection in the sampling. Equal implies that the probability of selection of each element in the population is same. That is, the choice of element in the sample is not influenced by other considerations such as personal preference. The concept of independence means that the choice of one element is not dependent upon the choice of another element in the sampling. That is, the selection or rejection of one element does not affect the inclusion of another. To explain this concept, let us return let us discuss our example of which I have already discussed. Suppose there are 80 students in the class. Assume 20 of these refuse to participate in your study. You want to entire population of 80 students in your study, but as 20 refuse to participate, you can use a sample of 60 students. The 20 students who refuse to participate could have stopped feeling about their issues you wish to explore, but your finding will not reflect their opinion. Their exclusion from your study mean that each of 80 students does not have an equal chance of selection. Therefore, your sample does not represent the total class. The same could apply to a community. A community, in addition to the refusal to participate, let us assume that you are unable to identify all the residents living in the community. If a significant proportion of people cannot be included in the sampling population because they either cannot be identified or refuse to participate, then any sample drawn will not given each element in the sampling population an equal chance of being selected in the sample. Hence, the sample will not represent of the total community. To understand the concept of independent chance of selection, let us assume there are 5 students in the class who are extremely close friends. If one of them is selected but refused to participate because the other 4 are not chosen, and you are therefore forced to select either the 5 or none, then your sample will not be considered an independent sample, since the selection of one is dependent upon the selection of other. The same could happen in the community where a small group says that either all of them or none of them will participate in the study. In these situations where you are forced either to include to exclude a part of the sampling population, the sample is not considered to independent and is not representative of the sampling population. However, if the number refusal is fairly small in practical terms, it should not make the sample non-representative. In practice, there are always some people who do not want to participate in the study, but you only need to worry if the number of significantly large. A sample can only be considered a random or probability sample if both these conditions are met. Otherwise, bias can be introduced into the study. There are two main advantages of random probability sample. Number one, as they represent the total sample population, the influence drawn the sample can be generalized to the sample of the total sample of the population. Some statistical tests based upon the theory of probability can be applied only the data collected from random sampling. Some of these tests are important for establishing conclusion correlations. So this is our today lecture. I hope you will understand it. In the next lecture, the other topics, the other points, I can explain it, which are remain. So take care and Allah Hafiz.